Hey
Oh,
everyone, we are live. I'm here with the frozen version of Jordan Berry over in LA where it's always 80 degrees,
not
except for
today, man.
today. Except for
Not
today.
today. Yeah.
Jordan says it is a balmy 72 and he's
No,
freezing. He's got his
no,
winter
man.
coat on.
It's in the 50s. Like it is. It's like it's
The
been raining for
50s.
2 days. I can't remember the last time I saw 2 straight days of rain. That's
The
crazy.
the 50s, the West Coast version of the 20s for us Midwesters.
Yeah.
Midwesterners.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome guys. I see we already got some comments coming in, and so Jordan and I were laughing. Jesse, I don't know if you're still here, but if you are, you're a trooper.
Uh-huh.
Jesse Coons, he posted their first comment at 5:22 p.m. Eastern time, which is an hour and 38 minutes ago. So he gets the Brian Henderson Award
That's
for
right.
this episode. Uh, so welcome, Ozell. I hope I'm
Ozell.
saying that name right. How are you?
All
What's
right.
up, guys? Closing on my first laundromat next week.
Whoa.
Congratulations. Where are you
Hey.
at? Tell us what
Yeah.
city and state you're at. That's awesome.
I hope you're
That's
loading up
a
the questions, Ozell. This is like,
yes,
man, getting the Laundromat Millionaire here right when you're about to start up. That's money
absolutely.
right there.
This is you're not gonna find a better tie. What's up, man? How are you guys? And Palm Beach Lakes, I can never remember who that is when you don't use your real names, but I know that's somebody we know. Is that
Yeah.
Daryl? Is that Daryl maybe? I'm not sure who that is. I know
I
that's
don't
somebody we
remember.
know.
I know.
Anyways, thanks for
Terrible.
answering. Yeah, the question was I would like to know if there's a national wholesale distributor for laundry products, hangers, Tide, laundry bags, pickup services, things like that, that has better prices than Sam's, Costco, Walmart. And the answer is no, not really.
Waleed.
Waleed in the house.
Hey, all
Daryl. Thank
right.
you, Daryl. I can never remember.
Yeah, Daryl. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was somebody we knew.
Dude,
But
Waleed,
welcome,
real
guys.
quick. Waleed is killing it on his YouTube. They hit 100 subscribers. Commerce and Chill. He's got his podcast there.
Nice. Go check out
And
Waleed's podcast, guys.
yeah, his
Commerce and
YouTube,
Chill.
he hit 100, and then I turned around and I turned back around. He was at like 200 already, and so I don't know what he's at today, but he's
Nice.
they've been rolling. So and they
All
got some
right.
good stuff. Go check them out.
Nice. How many episodes they got? Do you know?
Waleed, how many you got? They got a
Tell
bunch.
us.
They got a bunch.
Everybody go check out Waleed's podcast. I know I'm going to. I've seen a
Yeah,
few things, but I've never actually clicked on it. Every time I'm not sure where I've seen it. I guess it probably
maybe
was on,
Instagram.
yeah, maybe it's
He's
Facebook or maybe
Facebook.
LinkedIn. I think he and I
Yeah, I
connected
think
on
they're all
LinkedIn.
over. Yeah,
Yeah, killing it. And Waleed, you are fully expected to be at the Laundromat Millionaire Conference
yeah,
for
man.
sure. And we are going to shame you into coming. Shame you. One of the 103 episodes. Look at him. Holy moly.
Whoa.
He's
Yeah,
got
he's
almost
killing
as
it.
many as me and you combined.
I
In fact,
know.
it might be
More.
maybe more than both of us
How many
combined.
do you have?
I don't know, like 30.
Ah, we got you still,
I'm
Waleed.
slow rolling it. I'll
Pick up
never
your
catch you.
slack.
You do one a week, we do one a month. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No.
But welcome, guys. We are excited to do this again. And I don't know if anybody noticed or not, probably not, but we skipped November because Jordan ate too much turkey and
I don't
he
eat
was in a
turkey.
turkey coma. Oh, look at
Oh,
Logan.
Logan.
I texted Logan early today and told him he needed to get on here. And Logan, you can
Probably
do it. You can do it on Facebook or YouTube's probably best,
YouTube or
but
Facebook.
Facebook is fine too. This is streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube. These are Laundromat Millionaire channel. YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Um, you have 2 more subs.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, welcome everyone.
Hey,
We are
Linda.
excited that you're here. Logan told me earlier that he couldn't commit, that he was going to be playing with the kids, and I guess he's
Dude.
teaching his kids how to do Q&A. Hey, Logan, come on. I know his kids are like pretty young, but seriously, they're never too young to learn a lot laundromats.
Yeah, get
And
him
I
on
know he
here.
would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
He would.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
So
guys, get those questions rolling in too while we're just chit
absolutely.
chatting a little bit, and make sure you guys are connecting over there in the chat. Always my favorite part. Uh,
Definitely.
connections in the chat.
Absolutely. Before we jump into the questions and start posting them in there, guys, if you pre-ordered my book, Laundromat Millionaire, I shipped out the last copies today. So I know a lot of you have already started to get them. But I sent out the last, I don't know, 20 or 30 today. Um, So, and it was a little bit of both hardback and paperback. So if you haven't received them yet, you should be receiving them in the next week or so.
Can I just say real quick that
Yeah.
that book looks real snazzy behind you there, man. It's like, that's like official.
Nope. Wait.
Nope. Other side. Yep.
Okay, I'm backwards.
Yep.
Look at that. Oh, I got to
Looks
move out of
good
the way.
though.
There,
Looks
right there.
good.
Right there.
Yeah.
I got to make sure I keep my big mug off to one side so I don't block it there. Nothing like a little what is it? Shameless self-promotion.
That's it.
If you haven't gotten my book, guys, go get it. I'm a firm believer that it's going to help a lot of people. So go check it out. Laundromatmillionaire.com.
Supposedly you've shipped my 10 copies to me already, but I'm still waiting on them.
I told Jordan that I shipped his 10 copies. We'll see if I actually did or not. But that's what happens when you live in California. You're on the other side of the world. Everything takes twice as long to get there. Or maybe that's what happens when you live in Ohio, depending on how you want to look at it.
Well, shipping from a third world country is not
True.
always the fastest.
True story. True story. Hey, outside right now, it kind of looks like a third world country. It's dreary and cold and nasty, but that's okay. I still love Cincinnati. Nothing wrong with that.
All right. Well,
Logan said I stuck a bucket of food in front of my kids. Hopefully that keeps them occupied for a while. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I don't know how old his kids are, but we used to turn on Thomas the Train for our boys. They would sit there just mesmerized for like 2 hours. You'd have to like put your hand in front of their face to break the concentration. But anyway, we're glad you're here, Logan. Like Jordan said, make sure that you guys post your comments and make sure you're helping each other. That's one of the awesome things about that 3-in-1. Yeah, that'll do it. Luke, hey man, good to see you, buddy. Luke's a good dude.
Luke.
But yeah, post your questions in the comments here, guys. We want to all help each other out. And excuse me, getting over a little cold here, so I'm probably going to cough in your ear a few times. But we just want to make everybody better.
We need to answer some questions, but before we do, I'm going to kind of co-op this just a little bit. We didn't really talk about this, but Jordan's I just got to say that if you guys haven't heard that the Laundromat Millionaire Conference is coming up, it is coming up. I didn't tell you that I was going to do this, but let me just tell you the reason I'm very excited about it real quick is because it's turning into kind of a who's who of laundromat owners, and the caliber of owner that has contacted me and told me that they're coming. I mean, we're talking, people
Jordan Berry level people are coming.
We're talking about actual like legit people here. I mean, we're talking like Logan has kicked around the idea of coming. Luke Williford, Ross Dodds. I mean, we're working on Waleed. Waleed, you need to get there. Yep. I mean, obviously Dave's going to be there. I just, Jason Dodge just texted me the other day and said he's coming. He literally wrote the book on how to buy a laundromat. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, listen, if you're not coming to that conference and you haven't considered it, I'm not trying to sell you on something that I don't think is going to be worthwhile, because whatever happens at the conference is almost irrelevant to me now because of the people that are going to be there. I'm super excited about it. So anyways, that was my little plug.
I appreciate that
for that, because I'm just pretty excited about it.
Dude, there aren't too many things I've been more excited for, just for me, but for you guys too, because this is something I've wanted to do for a while. And, I guess I didn't have the audacity to think I could pull it off until recently. And it has been a huge challenge, but I'll tell you, the one thing that I've always had complete and total confidence that I could pull off was the content. Once we actually got there was the networking, the powerhouses Jordan's talking about. And that's a credit to you guys and my network that I've built over the years, which has been very intentional, of people like Ross and Logan and Jordan and I'm just so excited. The keynotes alone are going to be worth your ticket price. Not a doubt in my mind whatsoever, but the networking, the expert panels, things like that. The food's going to be amazing. The resort's going to be amazing. It's going to be, I just can't even tell you how excited I am for it. And I might even let other people talk. Maybe. I mean, we only have 2 days.
I won't hold my breath, but
yeah. So, but I couldn't be any more excited. And for those of you that don't know, I mean, obviously if you didn't know about this, go check it out. Go to my website, laundromatmillionaire.com. There's information on there. If you ordered one of my books, that little flyer I just held up, shamelessly plugging the conference, I put that inside of the book. You're going to get that. But right now we have $195 off the tickets. But you got to register before the end of December. So you only have a couple, well, literally a day tomorrow at midnight. It's going to drop to the January price. So
That
if
midnight
you're,
best coast time or midnight least coast time?
I don't know, beats me.
Oh,
You act like I'm in charge.
Waleed, don't tease us, Waleed.
Booking tomorrow. What about tonight? What are you waiting on? Huh?
Do not tease me, Waleed.
Come on, guys. Let's get Waleed with some peer pressure here in the Waleed, all the cool kids are doing it, man.
Listen, everybody, if Waleed signs up, the price is going to quickly double.
Yep.
So you got to
get rid of all the discounts if Waleed comes. He's going to be feature guest. No, seriously. Yeah. But we're picking on Waleed just because we've been talking about Waleed offline. But I bet your ears were burning. But seriously, we hope you guys all can make it. Everybody that's in this chat, quite frankly, everybody in the industry. I'm not a big fan of competing with other people. I'm a big fan of competing with my, yesterday's version of myself is what I always say. So this isn't about anyone else doing laundry right now. Waleed, you're doing laundry. Seriously, dude. Come on, man. Don't you have people that do that for you? All right. We're going to stop picking on Waleed now, or maybe at least I will. But anyway, I cannot. When I decided to put on this conference, the one thing I was confident of was the network, the people that would come, and Jordan said it very well. And he only named a handful of the people that are going to be coming. I don't have the list in front of me, but I can tell you we're just getting started, folks. I mean, the tickets are selling really well. And I wasn't sure how well I could market this event and convince you guys to come. But one thing I am 100% certain of is once you're there, if you decide to come, the value that you're going to get for your investment is going to be off the charts. And if it's not, come talk to me because I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. But it's going to be amazing stuff. Jordan, what are you going to be talking about when I let you?
I was gonna say it's a safe bet, man. I think it's a safe bet. I'm chatting on I think trying on due diligence, and I dropped an article. I didn't even tell you this, but I just wrote just kind of like a mini book. Maybe I'll throw it into that swag bag. I'll do that actually. I just wrote a mini book on due diligence.
Now you're committed, dude. We're live. You're committed. You just said it.
Dang it. All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna throw a mini book in the swag bag there, and it's gonna be on due diligence and just making sure. I mean, for me, one of my big things, especially for the newbies, is make sure you buy right the first time. And I want to talk about some ways to ensure that, because that's something that I didn't do, and it's hurt me over the long run. So so that's what I'm chatting about. And what I like about it too, I don't want to get too much into this because I want to help some people and answer some questions. But one of the things that I like about how things are shaping up right now with the conference is that you've got stuff for the newbies all the way through, experienced laundromat owners, but also experienced business owners. And that's really what I'm excited about, is to be hearing from, kind of the spectrum of people, and not just from within our industry, but also, talking about success in business in general, because I think there's a lot of people who have a lot of things to say that will help influence our industry that we haven't really had the opportunity to hear from them as an industry before. Because I don't know of any other events or platforms that are really bringing in outside savvy to our business, other than owners who have savvy outside of our industry. So I'm excited about that.
Well, that's something that I really think makes this conference unique, and I did that very intentionally. Hey, Mike, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, I hope you're healing up.
Yeah,
I heard about an accident, bike accident.
Holy cow! I didn't know about that.
Yeah, let me know how you're doing.
Wow, let us know how you're doing, Mike. I mean, you must be doing okay if you're on here, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I did that, and then we'll get into the questions. So, guys, by all means, start dropping the questions in here. One of the reasons that I did that with the conference was it was very intentional. And the reason why is I've told people, awesome, on his way back. Good to hear. I've told people for years, I've learned a ton from attending, the Clean Show and other conferences in our industry and podcasts and books and stuff. And I have. But I've probably learned at least 50% of what I know about business from attending conferences and reading books and podcasts and stuff from outside the industry. And I don't know why, but it doesn't seem like enough of our industry does that. I don't think we shun it. I think we just forget about how much value there is outside the industry. And I know even with like me and Carla's podcast, we try to be really intentional about bringing guests from outside the industry in, bring different perspectives on things, because I learned a lot that way. And I'll tell you a quick secret. When I got into the pickup and delivery game, which is a different animal, we knew we would lose money until we kind of cracked the code and figured out that business model and the operations. And we went a couple years losing our shirts, and we were gaining traction. We were getting momentum, and we were learning things, but not fast enough. And we were really, excuse me, we were really hemorrhaging a lot of money. And what kind of cracked the code for me was a combination of a bunch of things, but the big one was I went out to lunch with a friend of mine that's a really amazing entrepreneur and owns restaurants. And we were talking about business, we were talking about pickup and delivery, and I was telling him I've done this and I've done that. Well, if you know the restaurant business, that's a labor intensive business and the margins are very slim. So if you want to find somebody that really knows business, find someone that runs a successful restaurant and they will know business. I can assure you. And it's so funny because in like a 2-hour lunch one day, he almost single-handedly fixed my business. And he never even seen my store, seen my vans. He was just like, "What are your problems?" And we start talking through them, and he just blah, 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 blah. And that was a really light bulb moment for me where I realized that I needed to do this was years ago. I needed to do a better job of reaching outside our industry, and bringing that knowledge and experience in, because sometimes a different perspective is what it takes. So anyways, as Jordan was mentioning at the event, we're going to have a LinkedIn networking expert that's going to be there, an author by the name of David Cobb at the conference. We're going to have a Microsoft executive. Hey, Jim, how are you, man? We're going to have a Microsoft executive there that's going to be doing a talk. And we're bringing value from outside the industry, for sure. And we want to put us all together in one place, spend a couple days together, build those relationships and share that knowledge and information. So that was very intentional. Absolutely. And we'll be doing that at the future conferences as well. But anyway,
hey Mike, and
thanks
hey
for bringing
Jim.
that up.
Jim, you can check out laundromatmillionaire.com. There's a link at the top there for conference. I don't know if you can put things in the chat. I can't put things in the chat from over here.
I can. Yeah, let me grab that and do that.
Put a link in there. So while you're doing that, let's jump in. If you guys have questions or topics that you want to discuss, that's what we're here for. So those of you guys who are just about to close on a laundromat, throw those questions in there, or wherever you're at on your journey. That's what we're here for. And if you just have some topics that you want to discuss too, because there's a lot going on in our industry right now. So let's chat. So I got a couple questions. I'll throw them out there and we can chat about them. So you kind of hit on the national wholesale distributor. I don't really know of one that I know of. I mean, Cleaner Supply has some stuff. But I don't really know of another one. I don't know if anybody in the chat knows of a national wholesale distributor.
I don't know of a wholesale one. I would call, I guess Sam's Club is maybe technically wholesale. They like to pretend like they are. Cleaner Supply, I don't know that I would consider them wholesale. I think they're more retail.
Can we chat about the benefit of if there is a benefit? Norton Supply. Is there a benefit of doing the wholesale route over, say, like a bulk order?
All right. There we go. Now you got a link for the conference. So yeah, appreciate that. Sorry, I'm not as quick and suave as Jordan. I can't do it on the fly.
So I just threw this out to you. Is there a huge benefit to go in the wholesale route as opposed to like a bulk order? I personally have found that pricing is relatively similar. I know you can defer the taxes on the wholesale side, and maybe that's the main benefit of it. But
yeah, the pricing difference is wholesale is just the pricing, and you got to buy it in bulk. So I think those would quantify as the same thing, which is why I say like Sam's Clubs refers to themselves as a wholesaler. Yeah. I think they are in some ways, but I think they kind of, sell things in bulk at retail prices too. Just because you sell in bulk doesn't mean you're selling wholesale, is my
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
unfortunately, there's not anybody in our industry that's really cracked the code on that. I believed for a long time that there's a tremendous opportunity that somebody wants to be ambitious and create a business model. But yeah, the cleaner supply, the Norton stuff like that, my opinion, and I don't know if there's any of the owners of those companies in here. My opinion of those would be they're not really wholesale prices.
Mm-mm.
Um, they might operate as a wholesaler, meaning they primarily serve us business owners, but I don't know that their prices are a true wholesale price. That would be my observation, not that I've studied it or anything like that. But yeah, the Norton supplies, the cleaner supplies, the Sam's Clubs of the world, that's where we get all of our stuff. That's where we get everything from. We get a few things from Walmart and pay retail, but for the most part, that's where we get everything from. So we either buy it in bulk, or I'm sorry, we almost always buy it in bulk, but I don't know that we're always getting a wholesale price.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I think a lot of people kind of piece things together too. So if that helps, they'll use a Norton supply, a cleaner supply, Costco. I use a Jetro
Yeah.
here, those kinds of things. So
They're like a Sudsy. Don't you have a
yeah,
Sudsies out there or something
Sudsies
like
out
that?
here. Yeah.
Mhm.
So depending, I'm kind of getting to a point though, just not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm sort of cutting back on what I'm selling because I'm
Uh-huh.
tired of spending time going 3 different places to try to get 3 different things. And I'm trying to kind of consolidate and
Yeah.
streamline as much as possible. Okay. We got another
Mhm.
question. So Ozel's starting, or he's closing on a laundromat here pretty soon, in the
Mhm.
next week or so, he said. And is interested in starting a wash and fold service, but works full time and currently doesn't have any employees. Is
Mhm.
there a good way to get started on that?
Oh, geez. Yeah, it's kind of the age-old question, right? Which equipment's the best? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple rules of thumb there. I don't necessarily like my well, I guess what I would say, Ozell, is in my opinion, the best thing to do, and I know not everybody, in fact, most people don't have the finances to do this. The best thing to do is just make the decision, the conscious decision to go attended, either partially attended or fully attended. Build that into your business model, build that into your price, and then it's real easy to implement a wash and fold service because you have staff on duty that you can train. There are the drop locker situations of the world where you can put lockers in, have staff come in off peak times. There's situations where people will have a cleaning contractor run their own wash, dry, fold service out of the store, and they just pay retail prices for your vend, and kind of keep an eye on the store, if you will. I'm not really a big fan of those things, although I think in the right situation they work. What I would encourage you to do, because you mentioned you're just buying it, is to focus on just your core business, which is usually going to be self serve. You probably have, I would guess, you probably have quite a bit to learn regarding running a self-serve store. So I wouldn't be in a huge hurry to take on new revenue streams until you really hone that in, especially if you have a full-time job. That being said, it can be done. I did it. I started a wash and fold service after I think about 3.5 years. Um, and I still had a full-time job. I owned 2 laundromats that were at the time partially attended, and we had graduated from unattended to partially attended, which is why we decided to implement the wash dry fold, was to help cover the labor costs. So I think it's one of those things where, like most things in life, if you're starting something from scratch, there's almost always going to be that investment, either time or money up front. Excuse me, time or money up front that you're going to have to make in the business. Um, and if you don't have the time, then it pretty much has to be the money. And if you don't have the money, it has to be the time. What are you snickering about? I say something.
All right, listen, Brad. I don't like your sass, buddy. It is well within the 50s right now, not 60 degrees.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't see that.
Well within the 50s. I just
He's
want you to
freezing.
know.
He's
I
freezing
cannot
over
feel
there.
my fingertips. It's
He's
horrible.
in his house and it's 60 degrees outside.
um,
I
hey,
thought I said something.
no, there's a couple more that I'm going to come back to here. here in a second, but I wanted to, Logan is bringing up a good point. And the reason I'm excited about that question, and I'm not excited about it, I'm interested in this question. I just got done with an interview with Mark Stern from Eastern Funding talking about what to expect in 2022. And a lot of what we hit is this inflation stuff. What are interest rates doing? What about the distribution of everything slowing way down? How's that going to affect our industry? So I think it's a great question. And Logan is in this spot where he is expanding rapidly. He's trying to, and he's watching prices rise and, timelines from ordering to receiving equipment expand months and months and months now. And his question is, anybody else pumping the brakes on expanding?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'll be real transparent with you. This project I'm doing that most of you know about, kind of almost building a new store. It was an existing store, but we gutted it down to the studs. I mean, our costs, we've been doing this for 12 years, so I had a pretty good idea of what my costs would be. And our costs are, I mean, our bids are coming in triple for plumbing and electric and things like that of what they should be. And these are contractors I've worked with for years. So trust me, I'm not being gouged or anything. And they're even telling me, Dave, we're doing the exact same work for a different customer that we did 2 years ago, and our bids are triple because their labor costs are going up. They can't find people, so they're having to pay overtime to the guys they have, and then their supplies. My electrician told me in the case of electric panels for my new store, he said, Dave, there's some situations where it doesn't matter what I'm willing to pay. I can't get them. And if I can get them, I'm basically being gouged because it's from people that have them and they know nobody can get them. And he was like, so if I want to do the project, like if you want to build a laundromat, you pay this price or you don't. The thing that I guess a lot of us know on here is although inflation is definitely aggressive right now, the the thing that's softening that a little bit is that, money's so cheap. Interest rates are so low and terms are so great right now. It softens the blow, but it definitely doesn't make it feasible. And so the reason I raised my hand, Logan, is because I actually was talking to Carla about this project probably 5 months ago. And it's like literally my dream project. It's something I've always wanted to do, like a bucket list thing. And it's this location. I bought the real estate. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I told Carla, my wife, 4 or 5 months ago, I said, you know what? If I could unwind this, I would. If I could just not do this right now, I would reverse, go back in time and not buy this building and not do this project because it is outrageous. And I'll give you one more quick example that I know probably a lot of people know is about 2 years ago, I was looking at building a laundromat up in the north part of of Cincinnati, and it was going to be a similar size store, similar size building. It was about an hour away from where I am right now, almost identical equipment in it. This is 2 years ago, right before COVID. It was like December of 2019. And I was putting almost the exact same equipment in there. And I backed out of that deal and decided not to do it when COVID hit. And then here we are, year and a half, 2 years later. I'm doing a very mirror image of a project here. My equipment costs were 26% higher in basically 18 months for putting pretty much the same equipment in there. So yeah, it's very real, and I am pumping the brakes. So
yeah. And I mean, it's having to, we're having to adjust all kinds of things, right? And we're, I don't really hear anybody talking about this yet. Mark and I, this episode's not coming out for another like week and a half or something, but Mark and I were kind of chatting about this a little bit. And, I think our expectations, at least for now, I don't think, it's hard to say, right? Okay. The inflation thing, it can't keep going at the same, well, it can, but not in any kind of healthy way. It can't keep going at the same rate. And I think some of it is artificial and it will level off and maybe even come back down. We saw that happen with lumber a little bit, right? Lumber was, double, triple, and then it kind of came back down. I don't think it's down to where the original levels, but it's significantly down from its peak, or at least for now. Who knows, right? But I think that means that we need to start adjusting expectations, right? Like we've expected certain returns, we've expected certain costs, and
prices,
prices, at least for now, that might have to change a little bit. I think it's yet to be seen as to whether that's going to be a long-term, permanent, or semi-permanent adjustment of the expectations, or if that is, a result of current climate, and it may kind of come back down to earth here a little bit later. I think that's yet to be seen. But interesting discussion, Logan, because I think that is something that has implications all throughout, right? Like even buying existing stores, all of a sudden your existing store may be worth a lot more money because people can't go out and buy,
Great point.
or like build out a new store. Like you're saying, like it doesn't make sense anymore. Even in third world countries like Ohio, doesn't make sense. So you get somewhere, cultured and civilized like California, and it's just like I was trying to do a straight face, I couldn't do it. But no, but seriously, I mean, these build out costs are prohibitive. So what are the implications for the rest of us who own stores now or who are buying stores? Maybe, when you're buying an existing store, you may have to adjust your expectations on what kind of multiple you're looking at, what kind of returns you can expect to get. Interesting stuff.
I think that's a fantastic point that you brought up. And I know you and I have talked offline about this, Jordan, that like we both know people that have sold stores in the last, 18 months, and they're selling for like 7, 8x versus 4 to 5 or less. And I mean, I guess that can continue forever too, because that goes back to what you were saying with adjust your expectations for what's a reasonable ROI to get for your investment. So all these things come full circle. All I know is last I read, and I don't want to get into this debate, but last I read, I know the government likes to tell us interest rates are around 6% or inflation is around 6%. But if you go to like Shadow Stats, which is what I watch, they're saying it's around 15% inflation. There's a big difference in those two. And if I have to choose, I'm going to choose to not listen to the government usually. And so that's my personal opinion. They're usually not telling the whole story. But yeah, even Aaron, who's a coaching client of mine and a friend, Aaron McLean, he's building a store right now, and he said the same thing on one of his comments. What'd he say? Yeah, I'm building a store now. Build out costs have tripled. So that's happening. I think the only thing holding this up is cheap money, in my opinion, because imagine where we would be with all of these things if we couldn't, get a 10-year loan or 12-year loan at 5% or 4% or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
not to
which
mention
is
all these EIDL loans and stuff like that. That's like 3.25% for 30 years. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's real. That's really happening. So
yeah, which is really interesting because I mean, there's talk of obviously of like raising interest rates and what's going to be the implication. I mean, this is not just in our industry, right? This is
no doubt
everywhere, right? But we want to be thinking about our industry and how this stuff is going to impact our industry, as well as like our personal finances and our homes and all that stuff too. So, I mean, I don't want to go all the way down this rabbit hole and lose a lot of newbies here who are here trying to get questions answered, trying to get their first laundromat or trying to, expand out their portfolio or anything. Cause I do think that, one of the things about this is like any big changes that happen, any big changes, whether you see them as good or bad or whatever, there are opportunities there. Right. And so even in this current environment, there are opportunities there. But you just might have to be a little more creative. You might have to think a little more outside the box. Somebody mentioned SBA, so longer amortization, lower interest rates, all those things, like getting creative, maybe more seller financing, maybe more private lending. I mean, finding creative ways to acquire businesses to try to get a return that is acceptable for you, right? And the people who don't want to put in the time, effort, mental energy that it's going to take to figure out the transition, no big deal. You don't have to do that. But the people who do that stand a really good chance of coming out on the back end of this in a much better position than when you started. So
yeah. And Richard says in here, 20-pound washers going up to $7 in March. That's
crazy.
that's a part of the equation too, guys. I've been beating this drum for 5 years or more now. We got to raise our prices. We got to do it aggressively. I mean, if you didn't do a 15% in price increase this year, you lost ground. Think about that for a minute. And I know this is theory. We can debate whether 15% is real or whatever, but, and maybe deflation will happen. We don't know. But if you believe that inflation was 15% in the last 12 months, hypothetically, if you didn't raise your prices 15%, you lost money. You're losing ground. And if you're not doing more aggressive increases than that, then you're certainly not gaining ground. Your business is not healthier than it was before. The beauty of it is, and you touched on this for a second, Jordan, and then we'll move on. The beauty of it is there's always a silver lining in everything. Whenever you're in an environment like this, the good news is that the barrier to entry is going up. See, we're all talking about wanting to grow our businesses. Me and Aaron and Logan are wanting to build stores, and Odell's wanting to get into the industry, and that's all great. We all want to be aggressive and grow our businesses, but there is a flip side to this. That is, if you are in the industry, um, I'm not saying you're bulletproof, but you're a little bit more bulletproof than you were before, because as those costs skyrocket, if it costs more for me and Logan and Aaron to build stores, then it costs for everybody else to too. So the likelihood of them, building new stores and over penetrating our market are not as likely. So there is a silver lining in there, but it's definitely not a good thing. I would agree.
Yeah. And while we're talking prices real quick, I just want to plug this. I try to plug this as much as I can because I hear this a lot where owners are hesitant to raise prices. This is not the time to be hesitant to raise prices. Okay. This is how, if you're hesitant, Jim, good on you for bumping up prices New Year's Day, but man, keeping them the same after 5 years. I mean, that's, it's dangerous to do that. Right. So make sure you raise them to the right amount, Jim, because zombie mats are created by owners who don't charge enough. That's how zombie mats are created, because all of a sudden you don't have enough income coming in to be able to keep your business up, to be able to reinvest in your business, because your prices, you're not charging what you should be charging in order to have a healthy business. And when you don't do that, your laundromat slowly deteriorates, and then you don't have the funds to, keep on top of that. And so it deteriorates a little bit more. And that is not a linear deceleration of the quality of your laundromat. It goes real fast at some point. It hits this, point of no return, where it just tipping point, if you will, where it gets exponential there. So make sure that you're raising prices. If you own laundromats now, make sure now is the time to be raising prices and be a little more on the aggressive side of things. And with that, obviously make sure you're serving your customers and doing things the way you're supposed to be doing them, but not the time to be hesitant to be raising prices.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump on to another one here. Mike put one on here I thought was really good. He said, once a retool and remodel is wrapped up, how long after you see a significant uptick in business? I think that's there's a bunch of places we could take that, as you know, but what are your
I can
thoughts?
answer it definitively right now. It
2.3 weeks.
It depends.
Yeah, you're stealing.
There's a whole lot. Yeah, there's a whole lot that goes.
Is there
into
an
that.
echo in here?
Yeah. There is a whole lot that goes. I'll let you answer it, but there's a whole lot that goes into that. And one of the things that goes into that is, if your plan is to the whole Field of Dreams plan, if you build it, they will come. It may not uptick, or it may take a long time to uptick, right? A big part of that timeline as to the uptick has to do with what you're doing before that equipment gets in there and just after that equipment gets in there. What's your plan to get new customers in? And once they're in there, what's your plan to keep them? And that's a really big part of how long you can expect that uptick to take, and how much staying power that uptick has.
Yeah, the flip side to that is the laws of supply and demand. How much homework did you do? Are the laws of supply and demand tipped in your favor in buying this retool and remodeling it? Did you do your homework? And we're not talking to Mike here. We're just talking, hypothetically for everybody now. Because I'll give you a quick example. When I bought my second store, which is a long time ago now, I didn't know much about the industry, but what I did know was my market, the laws of supply and demand. There was like 9 laundromats within a 20-mile radius of my store on the east side of Cincinnati. And basically all of them were dumps except for the one I had just bought and remodeled, and it was about 15 miles away. And so I didn't know a whole lot about this industry, but I went ahead and bit the bullet on this second store because I knew that basically every competitor for this laundromat was a complete and utter dump. And this was one of the best locations.
Yeah.
I didn't really know any more than that. I didn't know how to do due diligence and things like that. I just knew that the laws of supply and demand were so tipped in my favor that I, wasn't sure if I was being naive, but I just told myself, how can I go wrong? And here's the quick thing. I borrowed a couple $100,000 that I couldn't afford to pay back, dumped it in this store, opened the doors and prayed. And we were in the black within 3 weeks. And that store has never not made a significant return on investment because the laws of supply and demand were so out of whack. So that's a huge factor. And that's why Jordan said it depends. Well, I mean, if you're building in an over-penetrated market or buying a store and retooling in an over-penetrated market, the answer to the question may be that you never see that uptick, which is what Jordan was referring to. But if the opposite is true, the old saying, if the laws of supply and demand are tipped in your favor, you almost can't screw it up. And if they're not in your favor, it pretty much doesn't matter how smart you are or how well capitalized you are. You're probably going to lose on this deal. And I think anybody in just about any industry would tell you that, retail, service, real estate, whatever that applies to.
Yeah. Man, a lot of good questions rolling in.
Yeah,
right
there
now.
are. You
We're on a
guys are
roll.
killing it. Nice job.
So somebody asked way back earlier, what are your thoughts on having mismatched equipment in your store? Is that they said they're a little bit OCD and prefer the same equipment, but is it a big negative to have mismatched equipment?
I'm actually a lot like, I didn't see the question, but I'm a lot like them, whoever it was. I'm kind of OCD and it drives me crazy. That being said, I've been forced to learn to live with it, at least in the past, not so much now, just because I didn't have a lot of money and I did things in pieces and phases to get to where I am now. So I've had to learn to live with it. And what my experience has been is, as long as they are working and functional and clean, and otherwise your value proposition is in line, meaning you have a good location, you have good parking, you have good staff, your customer service is there, all these things. I don't know that customers really care, or if they even notice if this equipment is Hipsch and this is Wascomat and this is Milner. I don't think the customers really care. I do think that there's something to be said for the ease of use of a store, meaning a lot of times if it's different brands and designs and different cabinets, a lot of times it's confusing. It's not really the brand, it's the design of the machine that can confuse people. And they're like, well, this looks bigger. And I've had people tell me all the time, I had, kind of the old school Milners with like the big cabinet, the drum. They're not very deep, but they're the Cadillac
tanks,
of our
man.
industry. They're tanks. I had some of those in my store until just a couple years ago. I pulled them out. Those are 35-pound machines, whatever that means. I pulled them out and put 40s in. And I checked the cubic inches, and the machines I put in were bigger, although we know that's not always true. And customers insisted, I put decals on them that say 40-pound machines and stuff, and customers insisted they were smaller because the Milners, the cabinet doesn't surround the drum. The drum isn't as deep, but it's wider, and so it looks like a bigger machine. And they were upset that I was charging more money. And it was, it's something eventually they just had to get over because the Milners were gone. But something like that, if you were to have, 20-pound Hipsch machines sitting next to 35-pound Horizons, or even 60s, in some customers' opinions, the 60s might look like the same size as a 35-pound Milner. So that's the type of obstacle I think you're going to encounter. I know customers don't really care about brand. And then the last thing is, if they get the size proportions down, but they use these machines for 2 of their loads and then go to use these machines, well, they have different controls. And so a lot of times the controls become confusing, or the soap trays become confusing. So I don't think it's ideal. I think that's ideal in a perfect world to all have uniformed machines, but it's just because I really believe it goes back to that ease of use. And that, well, I talked about throughput all the time, and just I think it goes back to that. I think it's part of your value proposition, but I don't really think it has anything to do with aesthetics other than just the proportions of sizes. But that's just my opinion. That's something I've had to live with, but obviously I'm building a new store now and it's all going to be the same equipment, and I'm pretty excited about that. But what are your thoughts, Jordan?
I mean, I echo a lot of what you said. Logan said, if you have to mismatch, make it match. And I would say, he said, put the layout in a way that the machines are together, which I would say yes. However, I think the more important thing than that even is getting the right machines in the right place, the right size machines in the right place. So
Mhm.
as long as it makes sense, it's all numbers, right? And you may not
Mhm.
know the numbers right away. And so, if you ask, is it okay to have mismatched machine? I'd say, yeah, it's okay to have mismatched machine. Is it better to have all the same? Probably,
Mhm.
unless it's all bad equipment, but probably. But if you have mismatched machines, that's okay, as long as your numbers are still working, in which they should be there. So, yeah, if you're starting new or you're retooling a store, obviously you're probably going to go all new machines. But a lot of times that's not an option. You're going to inherit a store that has multiple different brands or something like that. So I think the layout, kind of what you're mentioning, the throughput, the layout, all that stuff is more important than having all the same machines. And I would say just make sure, I mean, you want your eye, you want things to look good, obviously, but looking good, in my opinion, is secondary to being customer friendly, right?
Mhm.
And business friendly. And so, having everything match and everything is great as long as it's not costing you business, or, people aren't going to jam stuff in the 20 pounders when they really should be using 40 pounders just because it's closest to the 60 pounders because those are the same brand or something like that, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and I do personally think aesthetics, well, I don't know that aesthetics are too important, but I think they're a factor in the equation.
Absolutely.
But there's 20 things that are more important than the aesthetics, which I think is the ultimate point here.
Anybody know where to find Vans? Everybody I talk to cannot find
Oh my
Vans.
goodness.
I know Ross Dodds, who, he's got Wash
He
Club out here
goes
in LA, and
well,
he's always looking for Vans
he
and he's
goes
always
through one a
crashing them.
yeah, he goes through one a week. What
Yeah.
Don't do
Yeah.
what Ross does.
If anybody's got the inside scoop on finding those Sprinter Vans, or something similar, especially on the East Coast, somebody's asking. I can't remember who it was now. I didn't write it down, but somebody's asking on the East Coast there. So throw that in the chat if you can find those Vans anywhere in stock. Um,
Yeah.
I think it was, oh yeah, Ozell asked, who again is closing on a laundromat next week. Do you suggest going card payment only or staying cash?
Mm, so we're doing that, huh? Ozell, you have opened
Answer
Pandora's box.
definitively right now in 3, 2, 1, go.
The answer is it depends, Ozell. It depends. No, we're picking on you. We like to have fun around here, Ozell. But we're glad you're here. No, it's actually a great question that gets asked all the time, which is why Jordan and I both talked about it on podcasts and different things like that. It's something that if you get in the Facebook groups and stuff, you're gonna see opinions all over the place. Um, the reason I say it depends is because I really believe that everybody likes to give, maybe not everybody, a lot of people like to give a blanket answer, which is what works for them. And if it works for you, then that should be your opinion, right? But when somebody that's not you, meaning not running your stores and your markets, asks a question, I don't know that you're doing them a huge service by just giving them a quick blanket answer like you should always be card or you should always be coin or whatever. And I know it takes more time, and on a Facebook group or something it can be hard to leave a more, to have a real conversation. And I get that, but the answer is it depends. And the reason is because it depends on your market, it depends on your customers. There's a million different factors. I personally believe one of the biggest decisions in making that should be your volume. I've always said that. I mean, I think if you're doing if you're a store kind of in the country and you're doing $1,500 $2,000 a week, I don't know that there's really any reason to invest in a card system and things like that. Your volume just isn't enough to matter. But if you're factoring in, like, this is an example of it depends. If you say, well, I don't do a lot of volume, but my lifestyle is important to me. I work 3 jobs or I work 100 hours a week and I don't want to collect. I just want to stop in 5 minutes and empty my VTM and leave. Then lifestyle is a factor for you. And so maybe volume isn't important. Um, Maybe you're in an area where you're my store I'm building right now. A lot of people think I'm crazy. It's going to be a really nice store, but it's going to vend dollar coins and credit cards, a hybrid system. The reason it is because I've lived in this community for 35 years and I know the community really well. And kind of one side of the store is a little bit more modern, sophisticated customers. And the other side, a couple miles to the other side of the store, you're kind of heading, you're not really in the country, but you're heading to the country. And they tend to be a little bit old school. And they'll even tell you that, like, I don't know how to use that newfangled debit card machine. I mean, they'll say, and they know it. They're proud of it. They think it's a badge of honor. And my point is, so it's important to know your community. It's important to know your customers. And then the last thing I'll say is, I think a really big factor can be a market differentiator for you. You could look at it and say, I don't want to be different because that's different, right? That's challenging. But you could also look at it and say, I want to be different than my competitors. And I'm willing to put in the effort and time that it takes to what I call train my community to use something revolutionary, something that's going to make their life easier, whether they know it or not. So that's what I've always kind of looked at is there's like a million factors. So the reason it's so debatable is because there's a bunch of really legitimate arguments and discussions for why and how to do what you do. But what makes sense for Jordan might not make sense for me. So I think your market is a big factor, and I think your lifestyle is a big factor.
Yeah, well, Mike Morris seems bent on starting a fight and wants to know what about like a store card versus credit card payment systems? Which one's best? Definitively, right now.
It
Tell
depends.
us.
It depends. Well, I think I just answered the other question, but I'll answer again since I'm being put on the spot. Um, yeah, the answer is that a credit card tap system is always the best, 100% of the time. No, I'm kidding. Um,
No matter what.
yeah, I mean, honestly, Mike, we're being a little facetious here, but the answer is the same as it was with the other one. Is there's a million different factors. Now, if you're asking a question like, let me try to read between the lines a little bit here and take you literally. Store card system. I would assume you're referring to like a loyalty card system, but then you say like a credit card tap system. Well, you could. Those could be the same. I mean, there are I'll give you a perfect example is Luke Williford's system, payment system, IPS or something like that, that they developed for their stores. It's a store value system. So it's a store card system, but it taps. It doesn't swipe. So the method of payment and the method of transaction aren't always the same things. So this is an example of where it can get really confusing. But if you're saying a store card value based system where you put a $20 credit on your card versus a credit card system, take the word tap out of your question. Credit card system, meaning you swipe your debit or credit card or tap it, doesn't matter. And it takes money out of your bank account. I think those are also a matter of lifestyle and personal preference. But I know most customers that I talk to, if given the choice in those two, meaning a store card or a credit card swipe or debit type of system, they would much rather only have the money taken out of their bank account that they spent at the store versus having to put nice even round numbers on a card. And then if they spend 15 of the $20, now they have that float left on that store card value system. So the last thing I'll throw out here is I know it's talked about all the time how great a prepaid loyalty card system is for the owner because of the float, right? Everybody likes to talk about the float and how that'll pay for your system. And that's all very true. But if you flip that around, well, somebody's paying for that, right? Somebody's paying you for that service you're not really providing. And that's the customer. So I think a lot of times in these situations, we have discussions and we'll only have the discussion based on one side of the equation. So like a store value system, is that better? Well, if you ask most owners, they'll say yes because the float benefits them. But if you ask most customers, I think they'll say no because the float is taking away from them. They're paying money up front for something that they're not getting value for at least that day. Um, I don't know if that makes sense, but this could go on for hours, as you know. What are your thoughts on this, Jordan? I know Ross is like a. I know he's not on here today, but he's a card Hitler.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he's looking to scale rapidly, right? And
Yep.
if you want to scale, I was just having somebody left a comment on one of my YouTube videos today and was like, "Well, if this business is so good, how come there's no huge investment groups coming in and buying up a bunch of them?" And which is a legitimate question because we claim there's really good returns here, and there's obviously obstacles to that.
Mhm.
But one of the things is that the cash stores, they're kind of impossible to have 100 quarter stores or even dollar coin stores, right? It's
Mhm.
just impossible. And Ross is looking to scale, so the card system is a must in that situation. I will say another kind of factor to consider is your demographic. And if your demographic is not the kind of demographic that has a bank account, which is true of a lot of people here,
Mhm.
say in South LA, where my laundromat is, a credit card system's not going to work because they don't have credit cards and they don't have debit cards. Where a loyalty card might be better in that situation if you're going to go the card route. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of things to consider. Real quick though, Izza, congrats. Maybe closing by tomorrow on the first
Mhm.
laundromat. Whoa, that's exciting. And what's up to Joe Dan Reed joining us?
Yeah. Jody and late to the party, but we're glad you're here, man. Yeah, he said freedom by IPS. That's the system I was thinking of. That's Luke's system, and that's a value-based system that is also tap. That was the example I was using there. Eric says, I'll go ahead and put his comment up here. He says, I know I'd lose clients with card system, but once I get 4 to 5 stores, I don't know how you deal with cash and be able to have a life. That's
Great
that's
question.
exactly what we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a moving target that's always changing. And Eric, you hit the nail on the head there. Um, and I think the other thing I'd add too is I know I've heard many, many, many times people say, oh, if I went to a card system, I'd lose my shirt. And then I talk to an owner that's quarter mile away that has a card system and is flourishing. So I don't claim to know your market, Eric. I'm not talking about you, but don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. Because sometimes what you believe to be true may not be true. But I'm in a market where I think if I actually went all card, I think it would be an uphill battle for me. So I also understand what you mean.
Yeah, Starbucks making bank in that float, according to Logan. It's unverified information. He said Starbucks holds $1 billion in float. Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe Dan.
I chose this instead of the Peach Bowl. Man, we're honored, Joe Dan. We are honored.
That's right. This is way more exciting.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and
uh,
Logan answered to answer your, that may be true. I have no idea if it is. Obviously, that's not hurting their business model, but how do their customers feel about that? That's personally how I make decisions. I always try to make decisions based on win-wins versus win-loss. And the reason I've never cared for a value-based system is just because, yes, I'm benefiting in some ways, but I've also felt like it's at someone's expense. Not saying I'm right, just saying that's how I've always looked at it. It just never really sat right with me. But I definitely get the lifestyle thing for sure.
yeah, and I mean, I think Starbucks deals with typically a slightly different demographic than a
Good
lot of
point.
laundromat does,
Yeah.
and a lot of that demographic isn't really going to sweat a little float. Whereas a lot of
Mm,
laundromats are dealing with, edge of poverty type of people where, $10 sitting on a card is kind of a big deal
yeah.
when they're struggling to pay monthly bills and stuff like that. So depending again on your
It's a great
demographics and all
point.
that stuff. So a lot to think about, but not to
Yeah.
overwhelm anybody with the details. Um, Mike Morris asked another question. I'm not sure I exactly understood, uh, but I think the gist of his question, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the gist of his question is, how do you know when it's time to raise your prices, your vend prices?
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Is there a percentage point for a monthly or quarterly loss that is a marker?
I think his question is, how do you know when to raise your price? When's the right time?
Yeah, that would make sense. um, what I've always done, I'm not saying this is right. This is just how I run my businesses. Is I want to be at a minimum 30% margin on my business, And so I do whatever I have to do to stay there. If my expenses go down and my revenue goes up because I grow and I get above a 30%, that's fine, but it's unacceptable to be below that for me. And so that's how I make determinations is when my expenses go up, my prices go up, and I don't apologize for them. We talked about prices early, and I'll give you guys a real world example. In May of 2021, which was, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, my pickup, excuse me, I apologize, guys. I'm getting over a cold here. Um, my pickup and delivery prices, well, I guess in April, I raised them in May. Um, I've raised my prices 60 cents a pound from May to now, which I looked it up the other day, and it was 27% that I raised my pickup and delivery prices in 7 months. Um, it's because my expenses have went through the roof. I mean,
So
I've
does that
given
even cover your gas price increase?
gas, I mean,
It's crazy.
everything,
Labor, everything.
utilities. I mean, there's
Yeah.
our natural, and I'm not saying it'll stay there, but our natural gas prices are almost double what we were paying a year ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think we think it will stay there, but it is what it is. And you can't just ignore these things forever. We talked about the 15% inflation and things like that. But it's not like I'm just all of a sudden killing it, making all this money. But I refuse to sit here and watch this. Inflation, possibly hyperinflation, has happened. So let's not pretend that it's conspiracy theory stuff. But we have to make decisions based on a year-to-year basis. And I have heard people say on the flip side of that argument is, oh, well, if your expenses go down, do you lower your prices? Um, if that happened over a long period of time, absolutely, I would. I never have because that's never happened because we live in an inflationary economy.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, we can talk about it all the time, but there's very few points in history, and I know we don't want to go down this road, but there's very few points in history where deflation happened for a long period of time or aggressively. It's usually a short term thing where inflation and hyperinflation happens regularly. But just so you know, in the time that I gave those drastic price increases, gasoline, natural gas, and I gave almost everyone in my organization about a 20% raise. I did it because labor costs were going through the roof, and I was going to lose some of my best people because they could go to across the street and make 20 bucks an hour. And I didn't want to lose my best people. So business is business. Business is about two things. I've always believed this. It's about people and it's about math. And those two things conflict with each other quite often. So it's quite a balancing act. It's quite a balancing act. But Mike, I don't know if that answers your question, but if that was your question, that's a difficult question, but that's how I answer. That's how I make decisions. How do you make decisions based on that? I know some people do it just more like random. Some people are like, oh, every February 12th, I raise everything 50 cents. I mean, there's a lot of schools of thought to that.
Yeah. I mean, I do think I'll answer your question in a second, but I do think that there's something to be said for having a normal rhythm of raising
Mhm,
prices. And the reason I say that, not to make it arbitrary, but to make it habit for us, because
mhm,
I just see so many owners who don't raise their prices for years. And again, that's how zombie mats are built, by not raising your prices when you should be raising your prices. Right. And if the government numbers are to be believed, then we're looking at 2 to 3% minimum a year of just inflationary costs going up. And again, it would serve you more to look specifically at the resources we use in our business. So, like water, gas, electricity, labor, those kinds of things, and see what they're doing as opposed to the overall inflation number. But I'm in a similar train of thought than you, that I think generally speaking, inflation is higher than reported, and especially right now. So I think developing that habit of raising prices, if nothing else, is a good habit to have. If you want to get a little more sophisticated about it, that's when I think you do what you're doing, what you're wanting to do, right? Which is determining your costs to do a load of laundry, factoring everything in and building in, a 30% margin on that, or whatever your percent. It doesn't have to be 30%.
mhm.
It can be 20%, it can be 50%, whatever you're shooting for. If you can get it, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with the number that you pick. But whatever that number is, then that, like you said, it's just math at that point. You know, that tells you how much your prices should be. When they fall below that, then that's the time to raise it. But if you're not wanting to be that sophisticated, then, you know, get yourself on some kind of rhythm.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that I totally missed. Yeah, I had to put that up there. You're funny,
Yeah.
Logan. Luckily, I have a mic cover and I'm the only one that uses this. So unless I'm going to get myself sick, I think I'm okay. But yeah, I'm struggling. I apologize, guys. But yeah, I thought this was interesting, so I'll bring it up. I mean, we don't have to be brand agnostic here. In fact, I refuse to be brand agnostic. This is a cool conversation happening on the side here. It involves a bunch of people, but you know, I'll put Joe Dan's comment up here. Different people are talking about different brands, and I'm not here to say anything bad about brands. I've never used like Spider Wash, so I don't have an opinion. But I do want to bring attention to Sense for a second, because this may be the first time I've said this publicly. I'm not sure. I know Jordan knows, but my new store I'm building right now is going to have the Sense POS and the Sense card system in it, which is what Joe Dan is referring to here on the screen with his comments. And Joe Dan knows it. He obviously, you can read the comment there. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I think this is a worthwhile, I don't even know if it's a conversation, but just comment. I'm very excited for the team at Sense to be doing what they're doing with innovation. I'm not saying other companies aren't doing this too, and it's the reason that I'm using their system in my new store. And the reason why is some of the things they're talking about here. Joe Dan ultimately says in another question, we are trying to have a total operating system that controls all. I assume he means all operations of his store. So the answer to Waleed would be yes. Hopefully, he's asking if he's eventually going to use Sense to control his machines. I'm putting the whole conversation up on the screen here. But I think this is something that's worthwhile in discussing, because Waleed and Joe Dan, that's the system I'm putting in my new store. And Waleed, you're asking Joe Dan if he's going to use the Sense POS or tablet to start his machines for wash, dry, fold, and pick up and delivery and things like that. Then that's what I'm going to do. You can do it from the tablet, the POS on the station, but you can get also, which we're doing, getting a secondary tablet, and you can get like the little harness that you see like waitresses at restaurants and things like that utilize, and that can just throw it over your shoulder. Your employees can load the machines, and then they just right there on the tablet start the machine on the tablet through the POS. And that's one of many reasons we're putting that in our store. It's a pretty pretty slick system. I don't know that they've really even gone public with it yet. I might have just made it public. I don't know. So I might be in trouble. Sorry, guys, it says. But I'm super excited, not because I care what system you use, but because I really believe what the folks at Sense are doing is going to revolutionize our industry. Joe Dan and I have talked about this. He's a friend of mine. Excuse me. And that's why he knows a little bit about what's going on too. But Waleed, I know you use their POS, if I remember right, and their DoorDash pickup and delivery, things like that. But yeah, what you're describing, Waleed, is what I'm doing in my new store, and I'll be giving out more information on that on my YouTube channel and stuff as we come out. But I'm also a big fan of the support at Sense. And once again, not saying anything about the other companies. Jim Evans asked if the Sense system is swipe or tap. It's a tap system, which is kind of the newest modern payment methods. But it's something I'm excited about. I don't know if you have any comments, or I know you and I have talked a little bit offline about it. I'm excited for the industry, which is why I decided to kind of call attention to this. I really believe that this is good for our industry. Um, not saying anything poor about the other companies. I don't have an opinion on Spider Wash, for example.
You trying to get me into trouble too by talking
Yeah,
about this
I mean, I don't want to be in
stuff
trouble
that's
by
not out there
myself.
yet?
I don't want to be in trouble
I'm
by
just kidding.
myself.
Last I've talked to Sense, that card payment system is not available yet to everybody. They're I mean, they're dealing with the same issues as everybody else, trying to get chips and you know, supply chain issues and stuff like that, and they don't want to roll it out until they feel like they can fulfill orders. But that is something that they're working towards, and that is something I bother them about every week, because every week I'm doing coaching calls with people who are looking exactly for that, and I can't give it to them yet because they don't have it yet. So
I
Sense, get
know
on your game, Sense.
I probably
Come on.
just created a problem. So
Yeah. Well,
what
hey,
can I say? I don't solve too many problems, but I create a lot of them. So
it
you're
makes life
welcome,
interesting.
guys. I don't know what to say. But yeah, no, to answer your question on that real quick, or not question, comment. I'm putting that Sun system I just described in my new store, and they've told me they're basically having trouble getting enough readers, that they have this huge order in because their demand is just like coming. You said kind of they're sort of holding back the floodgates because the industry is starting to figure out, like, right, we all talk to each other, whether it's on YouTube or phone conversations or text or coaching calls. Um, and that's why I believe this is going to, like, they're literally holding back the dam right now. And I know for a fact one of their hardware guys the other day when I was talking to him, because I'm putting the system in all 4 of my stores, and they can barely fulfill one right now. And they were like, "Look, your other stores are established. Let us get your new store up and running." And they were telling me like May or June before they can get more readers, and they've got like a huge order on tap or whatever they call it, and they can't get them. But I do believe this is going to really, really revolutionize our industry. I'm pretty excited.
Well, it's one of the reasons too. I mean, not just with Sense, but Sense also. But it's one of the reasons too why I think I say this all the time, but more has happened in the last few years in our industry than I think has happened in decades
Mm,
before that in
agree.
terms of revolutionizing what's happening and where we're going as a business. And that's why I think that it's very timely that you and I started doing our things. I don't think, well, I know I didn't do it intentionally timing wise, but I think it's very timely because there has not been a lot of places where people can go to talk about this stuff and to get
Hmm.
this kind of information and to think ahead like this. Because I think that having a system like Sense or whatever, insert whatever you want to there, but having a system like that available to us, there are implications to that. And I mentioned this earlier, right? Whenever there's big changes happening, there's opportunity. And so asking the question, where are the opportunities? And this is how we should be thinking, whether you're looking to close on your first laundromat tomorrow or next week, or you're a little bit further out from that, or you're established and you have multiple stores and you're looking to scale out. These are the things that we should be thinking about and talking about, um, because that's where the opportunities lie.
Well, let me take it a step further. And I know this is a little bold, but I guess that's what I do. As laundromat owners, like, we're getting more of a voice every day, right? I mean, this
Mhm.
is an example. It's why me and Jordan do this. By the way, me and Jordan have a webinar coming up next week. We haven't really talked
Oh,
about,
yeah. Come
but
to
we
our
have a
web.
webinar. We have a webinar coming up next week. Um, I guess since I brought it up, I have to tell them about it now. We have a webinar. It's January 5th. It's going to be me, Jordan, Luke Williford, and Ross Dodds. So we are all 4 super excited to be on there together.
No
And we're going to
brainer.
be talking about all things self-serve laundromat. If you just go to my website or Jordan's website, you'll find the registration link there. If you're on my email list, you've already gotten an email about the webinar to register. It's totally free. And the reason that me and Jordan do love doing stuff like this is because what I started to say about being bold is I really believe that we as laundromat owners, and I don't say this lightly, I think we should be demanding stuff like this. And I don't mean like I'm a little child and I'm going to cry and get what I want. What I mean by that is we should be demanding that the companies that support our industry, that they do better. What we as an industry did 10, 15, 20 years ago, fine for 15 or 20 years ago. But as long as we accept that as acceptable, then that's what we're going to continue to get. And one of the reasons I'm excited about Sense doing what they're doing in our industry, like I said, isn't because I really care what company you use, but it's because I care how they're driving the industry forward. They are forward thinkers. And I really believe that they're going to disrupt our industry. I know that's like a very cliche thing to say, but I really believe that. Sometimes we can demand these things all day. And if, 5 companies are all doing the same thing, and I'm not saying they're in cahoots, but if they're all doing the same thing, then, well, I mean, unless I want to go create my own payment system, what am I going to do? And, people do, like Luke Williford. I mean, the Willifords went and that's what they did, is created their own system. But we as laundromat owners should be expecting, maybe demand isn't the right word, expecting more from the companies that support us and provide us with technology. And when you see a company trying to be forward thinking and revolutionize the industry, we should be trying to support them, and at a minimum having conversations with them. If you don't want to buy the product, fine, but at least be having conversations with them about not only what they're doing now, but what they're doing in the future.
Which
I
is
think that's
why
big.
which is why the first manufacturer to get on board with allowing us to buy online, having transparent pricing, all of that stuff is going to kill this industry. It's going to take a huge chunk out of the market share of all the other companies, because right now there is a rising tide of dissatisfaction with the way everything is working right now. And right now, as everybody's kind of twiddling their thumbs, waiting for stuff to get delivered, would be a perfect time for somebody to come in and revolutionize the business in that way. And it will revolutionize our industry. So hopefully somebody hears this and changes that, because
Well, I put Jim's comment up there. He says, does Sense allow you to use cards on both the POS and the VTMs? The answer is yes. I know the answer to that, so I'll tell you. It's part of the reason I'm putting their system in my new store. This is an example of, I don't mean this disrespectfully, although it may come across that way. Our industry for basically ever and ever has been Frankensteining our businesses together out of necessity. We didn't have a choice, right? And so what Jim is referring to there is, I'm guessing he's already figured out there's POSs out there that don't have their own card systems. And so some of them don't work with this. And then they say, oh, we're going to integrate with this company. And then you find out, oh, that integration isn't quite as smooth as they touted out to be, or a lot of them aren't integrated at all. And there are pros and cons to integrations and transferring information between company to company. What I love about what Sense is doing is, I think they call it like business in a box or something like that, whatever. But what I love they're doing is that it's one company that's decided they're going to solve all of our problems. And I believe they will. Obviously, I'm buying their products. So anyway, we'll just leave that at that. But I thought that conversation and the conversation that was happening over on the side here was worth bringing to the forefront. So we did, and the cool thing about it is it's our platform. We can do that.
Yeah, Kelly Reed chiming in. Sense system takes a matter of hours versus weeks of training with our old. And I mean, I think that is kind of the key, is having a system
I've experienced that. Sorry,
having a system that's robust enough to be able to do what you need it to do, while at the same time being simple enough to be able to train your employees and for them to be able to use it on a day in, day out basis and understand it. And, so yeah, awesome comment.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to give Sense, since we're on this subject, I'm going to give them credit while credit's due. We got about 10 minutes left, guys. So make sure you get your questions in the comments section. We've been able to get to a lot of them. And this has just been, you guys are freaking killing it. So well done, for sure. But anyway, what I was going to say is, we talked about at the beginning of the show. I know a lot of you weren't on here. The Laundromat Millionaire Conference. If you guys haven't registered, if you're able to come, I really want you guys to come. It's something that's on my heart. I'm very passionate about. It's March 2nd through the 4th. It's down in Fort Lauderdale. I put the link earlier. I'll drop it again right here. But I put the registration link here in the chat. And if you register before the end of the month, you get $195 off of your registration. If you register after that, then the ticket price goes up. But at least check it out. Take a look into it. Jordan's going to be there. He's going to be emceeing the event. I'm going to be speaking. Jordan's going to be doing a keynote speech. Our friend Chris Mihalik from Prime Capital is going to be there doing a talk on laundromat financing and creativity and things like that. But the reason I wanted to pull this out before we end it today is because Alex Chakowski, the CEO of Sense, is going to be one of our keynote speakers. And for those of you that don't know, before they became into the laundromat industry, Alex was very successful in other technology companies, and he was at one point voted Forbes 30 under 30, and that's not a little thing. That's kind of a big deal. He's a super smart guy, and he's going to be talking to us about technology. He promised me he's not going to be selling Sense from the stage. It's not what he's doing. He's there to just bring value to the entire conference. And I just want to take this time to just publicly thank Sense, because they are our marquee sponsor. When I told them about the idea that I had to do this conference, it wouldn't have surprised me if none of these companies, wanted to quote unquote sponsor the event. because I've never done this before, and I'm kind of learning on the fly and trying to figure it out, and just calling all my friends and begging them to help me, like Jordan. But the reality is, we have put together, and I don't say I say we have put together a powerhouse conference for you. Like, I'm confident this industry's never seen, and I just want to take this time publicly to thank Sense for being the marquee sponsor of the event, but also just for the value that they're going to bring to the industry. I know a lot of their team members are going to be there at the conference, and Alex is going to be speaking. They're going to be there for 2 days, guys. And this is an example. I'm not saying they're the only one, but they're an example of a company that's driving our industry forward. These are the type of environments that you want to be around. So, anyway.
Yeah. And real quick, I mean, while we're on that, dude, you got to come to the webinar. Can you get a link to the webinar while I'm chatting away? You gotta come to this webinar, because not only is Dave going to be there rambling away like normal, but Luke Williford, who, Luke and Lee, his brother, they own 40 plus laundromats now. Mm-hmm. Ross Dodds, who owns 10 and is rapidly, he and I and our other partner with Diligence are trying to buy 2 other ones right now. We're opening escrow for them. He's rapidly expanding here in LA. It's got a solid pickup and delivery business here. He also runs the Laundromat Owners Facebook group, if you're familiar with that. So Luke Williford, Ross Dodds, Dave Menz, and I'll be there too, for whatever that's worth. But all 4 of us are going to be at the conference and contributing to that conference, whether we're on a panel or whatever the case may be. So that webinar is, if you're trying to do anything in this business, those are the guys you want to be hearing from, listening to, interacting with, networking with, rubbing elbows with. Those 3 guys are cream of the crop in this industry. So, Logan, the food must have worn off. The bucket got emptied. Logan's got to go. See you, man.
Yeah, I'm grabbing the, sorry, I'm distracted, but I'm grabbing the registration link right now. And by the way, I don't know if we mentioned it, but this webinar, it's next week. I mean, it's coming up. It's going to be a powerhouse. We're going to do some Q&A like we're doing right now, but we're also going to talk about, we're going to have a conversation among ourselves beforehand. So let me drop this in the link here. But the webinar is free. So there, the registration is in there. Grab it, copy and paste it. It's next week. It's totally free. Me, Jordan, and I forgot to drop that back down. I'm not good at multitasking, but anyway, so there it is. There. How about that? So there's the link, and it's totally free. We're going to be doing it for about an hour. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. As excited as I am for the conference, that's in a couple months. I'm super excited for this webinar. Once again, man, it's just people like me and Ross and Jordan, who I believe are good people with good hearts, just trying to serve the industry, what we call elevate the industry, help each other. If you can't attend the webinar or the conference, then that's fine too. We'd love to have you there, but tell other people about it. Share the links, share it on social media. And if you can attend, then by all means do that. But there's the webinar link for you. It's over in the chat. Just copy and paste it into your browser and register. And by the way, I probably almost forgot to say this with the webinar. Even if you can't attend the webinar, if you register for it after the webinar is over, you'll get a recording of it for free. So you may not be able to actually participate in the chat, but you can still listen to the webinar and everything. And you'll have it there on your computer.
Gaze upon Dave's beauty also.
Well, I mean, I'm going to try to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So maybe that'll work.
If you raise it up a little bit, it'll be a little bit better.
That I can't even see. I can't
nope,
see.
Higher, a little higher. Yeah. Oh, not a little high. Yes.
There.
Yeah.
See my shiny head?
Covers your whole face. Now there. It's looking good.
Perfect. All right. You guys are tired of hearing us talk about that. But anyway, join the webinar, join us at the conference. Make sure you let everybody else know, because we're excited. We got a couple more questions. We got a little bit of time still.
I got them all, guys. I got them all checked off. Questions. If you guys are good, man, I'm going to retire early here. But if you got more questions, let's do it.
Now, let me go through here. It seems like there was a couple that we didn't hit on for some reason.
Maybe I missed some. Yeah, Sam says they've been utilizing Sense and game changing. All caps, 2 exclamation points.
Oh wow, I don't think
Big
I know
deal.
Sam Ellis.
How's book
Um,
sales? Good question, Eric.
they're good. I mean, the cool thing about my book, I appreciate you asking. Cool thing about my book, guys, is it's in pre-order right now. Like it's
Yeah, it's
technically
not
not
even
even out.
technically out. Yeah.
Right. I literally just did that for what I call my tribe, for my friends and family and things like that, which is why I'm fulfilling all the orders myself and I'm autograph them and everything. We're going to be doing that for probably another 30 to 60 days. And then from there, fulfillment is going to be moved over to my publisher. And from there, they'll ship everything out. So if you haven't got a chance to check out my book, um, Daryl says, at what temperature does a Best Coast person need a hoodie? This temperature.
75 or lower. We're in
75.
hoodie weather.
That's funny. That's funny.
Ideal temperature 84 degrees.
84 degrees. All right. Well, listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up a little bit early today. This has been absolutely amazing. Once again, check out the webinar. Grab that link before we go today. This replay will be on my YouTube channel, excuse me, on my Facebook page, and it'll be on Jordan's YouTube channel in a couple days. So check it out there. We hope to see you guys January 5th. It's at, let's see, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Left Coast time. So check us out there. Once again, Jordan, Ross Dodds, Luke Williford, and they have allowed me to participate as well. So I'm bringing up the rear. But we're going to have a good time. We're going to probably make fun of each other. I just realized, Jordan, between the three of us, you are not going to get to talk at all for sure on that
No,
one.
I
I
know.
mean, if you get Ross or Luke going, they're basically me. I mean,
Listen,
you're
I've resigned
next
myself to
level.
just be in the eye candy. That's what I'm showing up for. So
Hey, we need eye candy. So
uh,
we need it.
hey, also tomorrow I better get a text from Dave Menz, Waleed Cope, that you have signed up for the
Registered.
conference.
Put down the laundry and go register, Waleed. Absolutely.
Ooh, yeah, good question to kick us off for our next live Q&A next month is what community outreach do you do?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is
All
a
right.
good one.
We're sorry, Mike, we're out of time, but that's actually a fantastic question.
Yeah, he
I would
said,
love to
yeah, he
talk
said
about that.
Joe
Joe
Dan
Dan, you're
registered.
registered.
Holy cow, dude.
I
This
didn't see that.
literally is a who's who of
Yep.
events. I'm
Well,
like,
and I'll throw out a couple other names I know of for sure that are coming. Some of them are in the comments here. Stacy Runfolo, which is normally in the
yeah,
comments, she's registered. Joe Dan just told me he was, which I didn't know. He told me they were thinking about it. So I'm super pumped about that. Joe Dan, shoot me a text. I got to talk to you
really
about
what we
something.
want to know is Kelly coming? Because we
Yeah.
really, Joe Dan, I mean, we don't really
Right.
care if you're coming or
Yeah.
not. We want to know if Kelly's coming.
Yeah. Um, let's see, Aaron McLean, which was in the comments earlier. He's building a new store up in Detroit right now. He's absolutely killing it with pickup and delivery. He's going to be there.
Dude.
If you remember, I don't know what episode it was. One of my podcast episodes, I had David Gramke
Mhm.
on, and he's just a fantastic guy. Awesome story, super successful. He knows Logan over in Logan's area. And David's going to be at the conference. And then if you missed it earlier, it's a who's who, guys. I mean, me and Jordan, we're just trying to get everybody we know to come. And the cool thing about it is, as somebody else attends, that just spurs that enthusiasm of other people wanting to come. Which that's exactly the environment that I wanted to try to create. And I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, take credit for half of this. I'm just grateful for us, the community. All I wanted to do was create an opportunity for us to come together. So I hope that every single one of you that see and hear this are able to make it to the conference, make it to the webinar. I really believe we're moving. I'm going on my soapbox. I really believe we're moving the needle on this industry. I think you can look back as simple as a couple years ago and see a direct correlation between friendships evolving, partnerships, mentorships, education. You can see the education level across the industry increasing. I'm not saying me and Jordan are doing all of that. We are just trying to be a part of that, trying to foster, bring, kind of unity, if you will, to the industry, creating relationships and friendships among each other. And for those of you that are newbies in the industry, the reason that we call this event, the tagline is everyone's a VIP, is because this is not an exclusive type of thing. It's first come, first serve. So if you haven't got your tickets and you're new to the industry and you think maybe you don't belong, let me tell you something, you do. because this event is for you as much as it is for anyone else. And if you want to be successful in this industry, let me tell you something. Put yourself in a room with these powerhouse people, and you're going to learn a bunch of stuff. And the reason I can confidently say that is because this is how I learned. I learned by, obviously the conferences weren't as common 12 years ago as they are today, but I learned through attending conferences like this, networking events, things like that. And I'm very, very confident that we're going to create an environment here where we can all thrive and grow. So I'm super excited about that. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you. Really do.
Awesome, guys. Well, happy New Year. Everybody be safe out there tomorrow night. And can we just all kick off this year with a bang? And let's just come out hot. Let's come out running next year. And let's really, personally for our personal businesses, let's kick it up a notch. And also, as an industry, let's kick it up a notch and keep this train rolling, because I think it's going great places. So let's do it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, take care. Have a happy new year. We will see you in 2022 next week at the free webinar. Take care.